one's or 2-1, excuse me. Thank you. And basically, Fraer has to win this one to stay alive.
Yeah. Gosh, what a tough game to come out of, though. Like, again, you have the supreme advantage, early on in that game, and then you make a couple wrong decisions, maybe overextending a little bit, like going into Dark Shrine play, and the Dark Templars didn't do anything. It's like you do anything else. Guess how far ahead you are? You're super far ahead. So a really painful thing.
That he didn't do as much damage with the DTs after such a commanding lead.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, it's an interesting decision. I mean, you think about other matchups like ZVP, and like if you're way ahead going for DTs, because like, okay, the layer's going to be a little bit delayed, so he might not have an Overseer readily available. He might not be focusing on getting the Spore Crawlers down because he's not expecting it. But the Terran players have that inherent detection in the orbital command in scans. So there's always that risk when you go for that Dark Templar play that he's going to have scans available, and guess what? Your DTs are going to die. So very interesting decision from Fraer there to go for that DT play following that. And I was thinking a little bit about the end of that game. I feel like if Fraer could have kept the orbital command from landing with the DT, maybe, and then somehow snipe the Marines with the DT, like his Void Ray could have killed everything there, because MajOr didn't have any money, and of course he can't land his orbital. That was his only orbital. That was his only mining base. He can't get any more money to make any more Marines, so he has no anti-air. So what an interesting game last game. I feel like that's a replay I can just watch all day long and just keep reading different things about it. As
far as the DT decision goes as well, when I think about it in my head logistically, like if I'm playing and I'm like, well, I just killed a ton of SCVs, so those orbitals are going to be throwing down mules like crazy. The thing is like, it's such a gamble to think that, like for so many different reasons, like you have no way of really knowing what their energy is. Those can be really costly units. You can throw them in one at a time, but it's never just good to throw away those units, just like we saw with the Immortals falling basically to a horde of SCVs and the few bio that were left over. So, I mean, it really was a very interesting game, and I don't know. I'm excited to see what will happen here on Cloud Kingdom. A great map, especially for these two, to kind of showcase various builds and talents. And we're pretty much starting with our standard openings here, as we see Princess going with a no-gas FE. And pretty typical. He's going to be scouting with that SCV. And over on the other side, pretty much opening with the Gateway Psycore, 1 gas. We do have the Zealot out, and the Probe's in a position. The Nexus money is there, and the Nexus does go down.
Wow, this is like the first game we're seeing like what I would call the standard BVT metagame right now. Just the fast expansions, the fast Nexus, the fast command center. So pretty interesting. Maybe these players have developed that respect for each other. Like, all right, that was a good first a good first few games. Let's make a macro game here. Let's see what we can do in the late game. So we'll have to see how that works out. And something else to consider about last game. Remember he did that proxy racks in the beginning. Just another interesting decision. And then also like going for the Dark Shrine. What if you make those DTs into Archons, right? How much better are they going to be for you, especially if you still have that standing army of like 4 Immortals and a ridiculous amount of Gateway units?
Exactly.
So, just a very interesting game to think about. We could talk about it all day long, but what it comes down to is, MajOr's up here. He's 1 win away from taking this tournament, and Fraer has some work to do. He's got to win 2 in a row here.
He's looking pretty good, and I mentioned that drop play in the last game. Looked phenomenal.
Amazing.
Never had a drop that was not being orchestrated with something else around the map. Whether that be a run down to the 3rd, whether that be a run into the natural. That can be a difficult map for Protoss, especially when you're creating chokes here and chokes there. Your units trying to filter through, even inside Fraer's own base. A lot of those drops were so difficult to get to, based on his own SimCity. So, I mean, MajOr taking advantage of all of those things. And we do have the bunker up now. The Marines inside will kick that Stalker out of there, but the Nexus is done. A sentry kind of in an interesting position over here at the 3rd, watching, and there's a probe moving forward. So where are we going? 3 gates opening up. Don't see a robo, but on double gas right now.
Uh-oh. This SCV is going to get by? I think he is. Another sentry being warped in, so that will deny the SCV entry to scout, I think. A lot of tickling has to be done, but he is successful. The SCV does get taken out. Yeah, 3 warp gates again. That's a lot of sentries this early. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 sentries. So I feel like he definitely wants to be aggressive, especially considering we see that probe at the bottom side of the map. Like we've seen Fraer do these 3 gate aggressions, But in every single game we've seen him do this, he hasn't had a probe in position to put down that forward pylon. In this game, that changes. He has that pylon there to potentially reinforce close to his opponent's natural expansion.
Now, the Marines, though, they're definitely out and about on their little expedition. I thought that they were going to possibly go out to the middle, but, you know, this is wise. At least send one Marine over here. Well, he didn't go all the way. He didn't go all the way. He might be just checking all the you know, usual suspects, all the corners. This is bad. This is so bad because MajOr could have just single-handedly stopped that push by killing that pylon.
Oh my god, he's building a Stargate. Okay, definitely wants a Void Ray here. I would imagine that means his push is going to be a little bit delayed, though. I feel like if he just pushes off of these 3 warp gates and chrono boosts the heck out of the warp gates, there's only 1 bunker here. I feel like he could do a lot of damage to that. Of course, he doesn't necessarily know that, but we'll have to see if he changes his strategy once he scouts the front of his opponent's main base.
Yeah, I mean, with the Stargate going down, definitely an interesting decision. It's going to come a little bit late in this battle, but one group is moving out, and he knows there's nothing back home. Oh, I can't believe he turned around. I cannot believe he turned around. He's going to try to sandwich him here. A little bit of indecision. Yeah. And, you know, what's so great about the setup that Fraer has right now is that with this additional forward pylon put down, it's going to be impossible for him to get to that back pylon. And we don't have anything coming out of that gateway quite yet, and there's the Void Ray.
No, okay, yeah, there's the Void Ray. Should be chrono boosting that as fast as possible. We'll have to see how effective that ends up becoming because is Stim done? Yeah, Stim is done, so, you know, we're going to have a reactor on a starport relatively soon. Uh-oh. MajOr's going to try to engage it. Backing away with that Stim, turning around. Very indecisive. Guardian Shield going down. Force Field's going down as well. Very nice Force Field trying to trap those units. MajOr gets a lot of those units away, though. And, you know, Fraer getting some units for free there. That's definitely a good omen for what's to come. He's not done with this aggression. Has a Void Ray on the way. And once that is in play, he can warp in units in the high ground using the Void Ray for that vision.
And second Void Ray coming out right away. It just makes it a big deal. And now we do have the starport moving over. So Vikings will be a possibility, but he's got to get those medevacs out as well. And here it comes, the Void Ray and the warp in of 3 Zealots. And this is going to be real bad. Now they do have, the SCVs do have a place to run. But here come the units. If he could take out these Zealots with little damage, and unfortunately both of his Marines die, but the attack at the front as well, you know, did that do as well as it could have done? I don't think so.
Yeah, he's definitely not done, though. We'll have to see, you know, what he turns this into. A second Void Ray come get a warp in. No, he warps in the low ground. Very interesting. I thought he'd warp in some more units on the high ground, targeting down a supply depot. And MajOr, like, really has to be careful about spreading out his units correctly. Has to have the Marines there to deal with the Void Rays. At the same time, has to have enough DPS back home at his natural to defend against a potential incoming push.
Oh, and there it is. We're going to see this Stim forward. Is he going to at least get one of the Void Rays? Negative, he does not. It does get down in hull damage. Also killing that supply depot did supply block him temporarily. He will put down another RoXKIS. And I do like the missile turret going down, but it might be a little too late. This push looks like it's going to go up towards the front. There's a lot of sentries there with a lot of energy.
Charge on the RoXKIS. I would charge on the RoXKIS right here for Fraer. Like, the RoXKIS right behind him.
Good call. Very good call.
Oh, he's very indecisive. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Okay, I think he's trying to bait the Marines forward, and they're going to try to force field behind the Marines and take those out, so his Void Ray is going to be a little bit more strong.
Yeah.
But again, we'll have to keep an eye on this. It's definitely not done. Again, 2 bases behind this. It's not like his economy's in shadows. He's actually transitioning a little bit. Adding on a Robo, adding on a Twilight Council, getting +1 ground weapons, adding on a Phoenix. Very interesting. So, looks like he's done. Looks like he's done with his push.
I'm a bit surprised that was the end of that right there. But, you know, after what happened in game number 1, do you blame him?
Yeah, that's
excuse me, was that game number 2, rather?
That was game 3, actually.
Or game 3,
with the Immortals.
All over the place. Yeah, with the Immortals.
That's a great
after that last game, there's a part of me, even though it's like 4 Void Rays, like he doesn't have enough Marines to deal with that right now. 16 Marines out, spread out. I mean, that would be enough if he got that perfect position. But MajOr held that off nicely. I think that the big loss for Fraer was not necessarily doing much damage over there. And oh my gosh, he didn't scout the Stargate.
I wonder if he knows about that. Like,
no,
I guess
don't know,
not.
Man, those guys are getting over there pretty quick. Bit surprised that he didn't quite figure that out, but you know, who knows? This is a part where he can sort of get in a great position. He can think about drops, even though there is air Protoss out here. I don't think he's going to do that quite yet, but here we go. I don't think he wants to engage with that yet. Phoenix are going to work on these medevacs.
Oh, MajOr trying to find a good engagement here, but again, this is so hard on this map. I mean, if Protoss is utilized correctly, like, you should always have a cost-efficient engagement, considering all the choke points, all the ramps. Just force field right in the middle of your opponent's army, get him to overcommit with the front part, and hope they don't lift off in the medevacs and retreat. That's exactly what Fraer is looking for here. And keep in mind, Fraer's on 3 bases right now. MajOr only on 2. Just now adding on that orbital command is about halfway complete. Engagement happened here in the middle of the map. Marines and Marauders being trapped, and it looks like Fraer's going to get a great engagement here, but is it going to be enough?
Well, he does try to take out a few medevacs. A lot of that ground army is gone, and he's got to be careful about that. Yes, he may have those Void Rays alive, but if the Terran decides to go ahead and just sack what remaining units he has, he'll lose a lot of that supporting cast. However, that is simply not going to happen as the reinforcements arrive. The Marines trying to take out what they can, but you know what? Well, he kills a lot of that ground army, dude. A lot of it. Oh my God!
Only 4 Marines remain, though. 3 Marines remain, and now the Void Rays are going to definitely be a problem. So Fraer going to be able to hold off that push. The question is, what was that
so many Marines? Like, I feel like losing the ground army. No, it wasn't. In fact, he's going to go after the Voids right now. No more Graviton beams there. The last one is used. And the Colossus is out, and that might be the interesting ingredient that his opponent needs, the best MajOr.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, he sees all these Void Rays. I don't know if he saw the Colossus, but it's intriguing that he hasn't added on any Vikings to this composition, considering the air threat that is there. Like, that's 4 Void Rays. A Viking, that you can kite Void Rays all day long with the Vikings. So a little bit intriguing that he's electing not to utilize Vikings in his composition. Maybe he doesn't have the gas quite yet, trying to focus on upgrades. He does have +2 ground weapons on the way, I think, and +1 armor. So, again, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Still trying to be aggressive, though. I don't see this being successful with this Colossus here.
No. In fact, with the warping of the Zealots, that's going to turn out quite good here with the two Colossus, and he's going to have to get out of there. He's got to definitely be rethinking this a little bit. Still has not found that Stargate. Some great pylons out and about on the map to watch for any drop play to shut that down. But the third base has been established here for MajOr, so he's toe-and-toe with his opponent as far as bases are concerned. And we have another Void Ray just continuing to pump out units. I mean, I've never seen a more productive out-of-the-base Stargate than this one right here, actually.
Everywhere.
I mean, it is just, I mean, literally, he's kept the air production up. He's really going to be weak on the ground army, which, you know, may only be a problem if, you know, there's a lot of Marines left over. But with what's coming out now...
I think. He has 4 gateways on the way, so really going to start relying on getting those Zealots on the field. Has that nice, meaty, techie, you know, expensive composition of those Colossi and those Void Rays. Now focusing on getting a lot of Zealots on the field, warping them in, trying to flank this army. Is this the perfect move for Fraer? The Colossus going to try to engage here. The Marines and Marauders trying to split up, but is that effective enough? I don't think so. Fraer has so much stuff, but the ground army is slowly getting decimated, and now MajOr going to target down these Colossus. They're going to melt extremely fast, but it looks like Fraer has too much here. I think... Oh, it's so close, but the Void Rays are too strong at this point in time. More Zealots, more Stalkers, I should say, being warped in at that one pylon, that proxy, that Stargate, and could not being able to scout that out be the downfall for MajOr here.
All right, well, he does have some Vikings coming out. He takes out one of the Phoenix, but he's got to watch out immediately. The Void Rays melt Viking number 1. There's just the one Colossus yet. SCV's coming out to join their comrades here in the battle, and the Colossus does fall. The last Stalker will fall, and suddenly that Air Force is going to be gone. Now, again, if he finds a Stargate, it is going to completely cripple that air capabilities here of Fraer, but behind this, he's putting down a 4th base. He's got those 4 extra gateways coming out here, and I don't know that that's going to be that big of a deal. Like, he needs to start focusing on the Colossus. The only problem is his opponent is definitely getting out those Vikings. Yeah. So either way, he's pretty much covered here. And his 3rd base, I mean, honestly, he didn't suffer that much damage.
No, he didn't. Still a very even game. Look at the supplies. 130 to 130. Income tab shows 75 to 57 in favor of Fraer. He needs to really focus on getting that core unit, gateway unit composition on the ground. Already adding a lot of Zealots and Stalkers. He's well on his way to being able to do that. Also adding in a High Templar Archives. Keep in mind, he does have +3 ground weapons research to the 1-2 of his opponent. +3 ground weapons is on the way for MajOr. Looks like he wants to try to get another engagement going, trying to find out where is my opponent's army. Do I have the correct compositions to greet it? And you know, I think Fraer is just fine as long as he gets those good engagements. Force field the bottom of the ramps, trying to get your opponent to overextend.
And there's a scan to identify the army, sees the Archon in there as well. And it's looking like a pretty scary composition, and I don't know that is MajOr actually going to go for something like this. Now, I love this. He picks up with one of his medevacs, swings it around the back, might be able to drop. I think that it was spotted there by that pylon, though, so he just goes ahead and hightails it out of there. So good idea, but stopped short just by the great map present that we see out here for Fraer.
I love it. Look at this map vision, dude. He has a pylon in the bottom right, pylon in the middle right. He has an observer right next to that watchtower, a pylon in the top left. He's going to see that drop because of these 4 gateways over here. So yeah, really good map vision. That's a key. That's a huge key in the PvT matchup. Having that vision, being able to know where your opponent's army is, has to be careful. Doesn't want to overextend with these stalkers. They do have blink though, so they're going to blink out of there immediately. Keep in mind that medevac going to the top side of the map. He's going to try to pressure in 2 locations at once.
I love it. I love it. He's going to put that medevac in a fairly undefended location. He's going to skip the natural, go directly into the main. Now there's a lot. No, he's going to go back to natural, at least on the high ground, and that's an even better spot for him to be. He's going to have to pull these probes. Now he could be. He could go ahead and attack here. He's just got this forward group of stalkers. If he takes this out, that is going to be so bad for the ground army of his opponent, but there blink comes into play. Meanwhile, so much damage is being done here at the third.
Yeah, you know, Fraer unable to deal with that right now. He's preoccupied with a huge army outside of his 4th base, prioritizing that in his mind. Now, just now returning back to try to deal with that medevac. But that's the thing about this map. A medevac can just dip and dodge in between the main base and the 3rd base, and it's so hard to deal with. So we'll have to see if MajOr can get out of there with that medevac, but it's going to be close. A cannon is there, and that should be the end of that. Medevac, no, going to drop the units to try to deal with this, but the stalker's going to blink down, and Fraer finally going to clean this up. Meanwhile, MajOr retreating all the way back to his natural expansion. You know, I'm still intrigued. No Ghost Academy on the field, I don't think, which I feel like he absolutely needs at this point.
Oh, at this point he does with the high 10. I mean, he's literally got the special bag of Protoss tricks. The Colossus.
Yeah,
he retained 4 Void Rays. He's got, you know, he's got the High Templar that are just pooling energy, and of course do have Storm. Not to mention the feedback, you know, potential there. I do like the Viking count here for MajOr, but he's on bio that's 1-3 right now. And he's definitely up against a composition that's going to be really, really fantastic versus this bio.
It's all going to come down to positioning. Like, that's usually what it all comes down to, especially on this map, especially in this matchup. Fraer has to be extremely careful. Sure, he might have the better unit composition in the fact that his opponent's having a ghost, but now an engagement going to happen here. Oh, nice storm, but again, MajOr going to back away, forcing his opponent to commit up a ramp. Vikings trying to get some free shots off Storm, going underneath the Stalkers blinking forward, trying to take those down. A decent trade, but again, both these players have to be extremely careful.
Oh, he does almost snipe a Void Ray. Oh, another good storm goes down, but it's actually dodged here by MajOr. A lot of back and forth. Here comes another storm. Is it going to come out? No. These armies definitely doing the dance. Now, unfortunately, the Viking count has been severely crippled right now, and he needs to take out as many of those Vikings as he possibly can. There, the storm's laying down, and finally, they do an immense amount of damage, and GG as Fraer ties it up.